Hello everybody, Zelfie here, and today I wanted to go over my deck list that I played at both my League Cup and my League Challenge. During the League Challenge, which is the smaller event, I ended up getting 3rd place, pretty respectable, but in the League Cup, which had 32 people on it, I ended up getting 2nd place in the whole event and taking home quite a big prize. I was extremely happy with the way I performed. And I was extremely happy that a lot of people were very interested in my deck list at the event. So, in case you can't tell, this is a Lost Zone Palafin deck. And I just sort of want to talk about a little bit how I got started on this. Originally, I had a Lost Box deck with Zamazenta, where if you've seen any other videos on my channel, you know how much I like staying to the single prizers. Not really a big fan of like the Dragonite or the Raikou or whatever. And I don't think the Giratina is that great either. So I stuck to mostly one prizer. Zamazenta was the best one for the longest time. And originally I was gonna test out Charizard EX because I saw some Japanese lists playing that, so I go give it a shot. But my friend told me that sucks, and you should try Palafin. It'll be funny. I was like, sure. But the more I got to actually play it around the deck, the more like it started like actually work. I was shocked, because I kind of thought he needed a lot of effort to work. Just a lot of the other deck lists I've seen, trying to make the Palafin work, just weren't nailing it for me. They had to put in way too many support cards for the Palafin, and like, playing a stage 1 in Lost Box, that seems ridiculous, right? But it's not as ridiculous as it may come off as. The big thing is that both of Palafin's attacks are actually extremely good. Justice Kick is a swift damage, piece of damage against opponents, and unlike Zamazenta, you don't have to wait for your opponent to take the initiative, so you can go ahead and steamroll a lot of advantages this way. Granted, it doesn't kill most of the Vs or basic EXs such as like Chi and Power Arceus in this format. I'm definitely not ready to like a Defiant Belt or a Vitality Band to fix that. But when we have cards such as like Sableye, or there's still V-Stars, we can kill them off with a Radiant Greninja Snipe. So the damage actually ends up being extremely good. And the amount of times that Jet Punch has won me the game, like a 30 or a 1 energy cleaned up something that you put damage on earlier, is really good. Uses Snipe and Barrels. You can cram hit into a Cresselia, into Jet Punching it afterwards, is actually how I won my very first game of the League Cup. Or something similar like that. And even the Finizen has a pretty okay attack with the Valley Evolution. You're allowed to swap this with one of your bench Pokemon and then evolve into your Palafin. So you get immediate tempo, and you're already putting on 1 energy on here. So you don't need a Mirage Gate. You don't need anything else. You just need to find the other water energy to do your Justice Kick on the following turn. It's also a pretty great way to stall for a little bit, because then you can go into Mimikyu. And because Mimikyu has, the safeguard attack, it can force your opponent to either whiff their next attack or play around it in certain ways. A deck like Miraidon or Charizard can struggle into a Mimikyu, granted the opportunity, right? And the rest of the Lost Box stuff is pretty standard. So of course we got our 4 Comfeys to search stuff out. 2 Sableyes, because Sableye is really critical to winning. I'm only running 1 Cramorant, which can be a little suspect. But ultimately, you just have so many more impactful attackers throughout the game that you're not entirely reliant on Cramorant. You might want to use it in the early game. Hope it's not prized like it was in the majority of my games, but even in those games that it was prized is fine. But like, you have Radiant Greninja for a total 180, Sableye, which is a 120 damage, but placed wherever you like, so you can allocate it to hit specific numbers. And this guy just also does fucking ridiculous damage too. And one of the reasons why I like the Palafin Lost Zone deck as opposed to like a Palkia Lost Zone deck is that you're already playing all the core cards to support it. You literally do not have to compromise at all to run this. The only compromise, instead of running 4 Escape Rope, 4 Switch Cart, you have to run some number of switches instead, which is fine because the Switch Carts aren't too impactful. There's like no Team Blue running around, so you don't need to clear off that damage. And it can be impactful against other Lost Zone decks, but ultimately you're going to be finding other ways to win. So yeah, I'm running 3 switches, and 4 Escape Rope. There's no Beach Court or Jet Energy in here, just because they don't really synergize well with Palafin. You want to be manually attaching the waters here, and this doesn't take a single colorless energy, so jet energy is not good, and it's not a basic, so you don't get to utilize Beach Court. So I'm pretty much fine doing this. So, like I said, basically, no compromises here. You're already running all the support cards for it, so it just fits in nicely. From here is just some other personal choices. I really like Artazon, and the reason why I like Artazon is because if you are confident that as long as you get set up, you can win and outplay your opponent, Artazon is such a great card. As long as you built your deck to, like, not fall behind. If you're playing a slower deck, it's like, oh, I have to set these things over time. I don't like Artazon because then it gives your opponent the same speed. Like, in a Charizard versus Chimpao matchup, I would much rather not give my opponent a Frigimax and, like, hold off on the Charizard and hope that slows them down, right? But it's all context dependent. We have 2 Lost Vacuums, and these cards are so good. And so often, Lost Vacuum has been critical to bumping my Lost cap to, like, 7 or 10, and just being that final piece I need in order to, like, Mirage Gate or Sableye, or even Cram on the first turn with just a Colress, a Stadium, or a Lost Vacuum. Of course, you get a Comfey out too, or whatever other cards you need. But yeah, for Mirage Gate. Now, I will say this third Mirage Gate, or this fourth Mirage Gate here, is the most cuttable card of the deck. I was looking at some Japanese lists and looking for context for how I should build it, and there were some changes that I made to it. But they were running 3 Mirage Gates, and I forgot what I was going to run before, but I didn't have it, so I decided I'll just throw in the 4th Mirage Gate. It'll be fine. I'll talk a little bit more about what you can fill that 4th Mirage Gate in with later, but yeah. 2 Nest Balls, really don't need a whole lot. And 4 VIP Pass, just making sure that we can hit on our turn 1. Like I said, as long as you are getting set up first, I'm pretty sure this deck can beat everything besides, like, Mew. 2 Ionos is really good disruption, so if you have everything set up, this is almost similar to, like, Lost Art, where you have so many low effort attackers. This requires 1 energy, this attacks for free, and this requires 2 energy, but that could be a manual attachment and a Mirage Gate, or it could just already have an energy on it from a previous turn. There's a lot of ways that you can just attack for really efficient, so Iono is pretty good at just stopping your opponent from doing things or slowing them down. It won me, I know it did win me 1 game specifically where I chucked away, like, my opponent's V-Star or something like that. And 2 Boss's Orders, pretty good if you ever have to, like, in the Mew matchup specifically, you want to be able to boss up a Genesect and Justice Kick it, because that is your prize mapping to winning that set. And of course, you can, like, Boss's Orders with Cramorant, with other tools. I just think it's pretty good. I like the Pokégears as well, because I really want to be hitting this course. So it gives the extra outs to the course. Doesn't always work, but, you know, that's what it is. And then 2 Super Rods, I think is the last card yet. 2 Super Rods, never get rid of these. You're basically forced to take your Super Rods every game. There was 1 set where I did take a Super Rod, and I thought I lost because of it, but I, like, barely managed to scrape it out. So, never lost them, just keep them. Be responsible. And then 3 Psychic Energies and 7 Waters. Also, another big thing about the Palafin is that you don't have to run a 3rd energy, and this, like, stream-wise, a lot of your process really well. So when I go for my deck searches, I'm looking for all my Pokemon, looking to see if the Cram is actually there, making sure my Manaphy is at prize in the matchups it is, and then I also check my energy counts. And those are the most important things that I check. I don't really check for, like, my Super Rods, because I know I never can lose them under any current circumstance. And then later on, I'll start checking for more explicit things, like I'll see how many switches I have left, or if my boss's orders are in there, just things like that, right? But ultimately, your first deck search should be searching out your Pokemon and then counting your energies afterwards. If you need a notepad, take a notepad, probably the best way of doing that. And also make sure that you're not, like, fumbling around the late game. It's like, oh, let me play this Nest Ball and then see if I have the energies in my deck. Just take your notes. It's so good for you. Alright, and then I want to talk about my matchups, which I have posted onto my Twitter, at Zelfie Taker, blah blah blah, X, whatever you want to call it. So, at the League Challenge, I played against Lost Vacuum, and I took the first win, and I lost the second game due to, like, not a dog, but like, basically I never drew a single Comfey or a Colress. And then game 3 was also extremely tight, but I managed to clutch it out. Palafin does a lot of damage, and I ended up taking out a Giratina before it could get set up. The Mew was just very, very difficult. One of the hardest matchups for this deck. In fact, I'd probably say it is the hardest matchup for this deck. Gardevoir is pretty easy, I would think. The big thing about Gardevoir is that you just have to constantly harass that Manaphy. Just keep tearing down that Manaphy, or if you get the chance to, Moonlight Shuriken 2 Curlies. But just always keep the pressure on the Manaphy. I've had so many games where I take 4 prizes, like KOing the Manaphy. It's like Super Rod, Clara, things like that, right? But as long as you just keep working on it, you'll eventually get there. Also, watch out for putting damage onto things that aren't Psychic types because of Moonglow Reverse. And just give them slightly more opportunities to, like, KO something. So, for example, if they only have, like, 3 Psychics out, they can, like, only put 6 damage on, but then if you, like, put remaining damage onto a Greninja, then they can start KOing, like, a Sableye on the bench or a Comfey. So you want to be able to limit those opportunities from the opponent. Yeah, but Gardevoir is pretty easy, I think. Lost like Giratina, once again, it's a tough matchup, but I think that as long as you get off the ground first, and you just solidify, you just stick to your strategies, you'll be fine. I had a lot of people bring up concern that this is a 50 HP Pokemon, but also, like, don't set it up when fucking Sableye's around. It should be as simple as that, right? You just have to get your Finizens out early, or early enough that Sableye isn't really a factor that you should consider reasonably. So, like, you have 1 or 2 turns to put your Finizens down and evolve them, which I think is completely fair. If you're putting your Finizens down, like, past, maybe turn 3 is fine, but, like, past turn 3, definitely do not. Just stick to what you have. But other than that, you just Jet Punch you just Justice Kick the Giratinas, you clean it up with the Sableyes, you maybe take a knockout with Cramorant, and of course, harass that Manaphy. People are so reliant on this Manaphy in order to keep themselves in check. And so, I ended up playing a game against a Lost Zone. I think one of these is wrong because I definitely played against a Lost Zone toolbox. But basically, what was it? I want to say... Yeah, no, I want to say it was in this, in the League Challenge. They had 3 Comfeys, a Cramorant, a Radiant Greninja, and a Manaphy. So they were bench locked. They had to constantly search for that Manaphy in order to not get Radiant Shuriken. So they could never put down a Sableye against me, and the only thing that they were allowed to attack with was Cramorant. And so they ended up having to do things like play their Clara, which meant they couldn't play their supporter. They had to use all of their Super Rods just to keep the Manaphy in play, and essentially bench-lock them by doing that. So really take advantage of that. This is the prime card to target down. And that way you just inflict pressure with Radiant Greninja. I took the first prize of the Cramorant early on, and then the rest of my 4 prizes after that were Sableye killing the Manaphy. And eventually I just had everything set up, and my opponent could never put down any of their prime attackers. They had no Giratinas, no Sableyes, because they couldn't afford it. They would have lost the game if they did that. So, that's a really good way of winning. Yeah. So, I ended up going 31 in the League Challenge. I got 3rd place because I think it was the Mew player who I lost to actually ended up taking 1st. Alongside another person who I think was Mr. Donald over here. So yeah, pretty good results overall. And this taught me that, man, Mew is really hard, so I took a few notes the day beforehand on how to play the matchup. I almost thought about putting a Draco into my deck, but I didn't know how common Mew was going to be. I still don't know how common Mew is going to be in the meta as a whole. I know it's just one world, so it's on people's minds, but, there's everyone trying to play Charizard and things like that. So I ultimately decided that I was just going to run the same 60 for the following day. So the following day comes, submit my same exact list. I think I literally just said, hey, you have my sheet from last night? Cool, use that. Anyways, round 1 is against a Gardevoir, and this comes down to literally the last card of my deck. My opponent's just doing a really good job of, pressuring my Sableyes and things like that. But one thing my opponent doesn't do is they aren't, KOing the Palafin. So I ended up doing a pretty similar strategy to what I was talking about in that Giratina Lasso game, the 4th game that I played for the League Challenge, is that you just keep on harassing that Manaphy. You keep forcing them to play cards to get it back, and eventually, you know, they're not going to have it. It actually didn't matter for the Radiant Greninja, though it could have, because I had all the energies on it. But eventually they didn't have a Manaphy, and I put enough damage on the Cresselia where it was at 110. So it Moonglow reversed. It killed like my Sableye, or no, it didn't even kill anything. He was trying to stall for a tie, so he bossed my Comfey without any energy. And so like the anime protagonist I am, I flipped the last card of the deck, and it's a fucking Escape Rope, and I like used fucking Jet Punch of all things to kill the Cresselia for game. So definitely a really hype way to take that first game of the set. Also, because I was the only game that went to time. I know a lot of people watching me. So there's people like, dude, is that a fucking Palafin? What does the card do? Yeah, it's just really, really funny to watch. So yeah, I ended up winning that game. Next is I'm playing into an Arceus Charizard. And unfortunately for me, as hype as that first game was, I get completely dogged here. I start the game with a Sableye, scratch, and then he just bogs me, and I lose. So, oops. At least I was able to go grab food at that time, because I hadn't ate yet. It was like 11. I woke up at like 9:30 or something like that. Got ready. I made it there at 11. I didn't grab any food, so glad I actually got to take a small lunch break between then. Afterwards, I played against a Lasso Giratina, and in the exact opposite turn of events, I bonked the shit out of them with Cramorant, so that was cool. And then against the LZ Tina deck, I ended up having a really good turn 1. They only had 2 Comfeys. They went first. I ended up paying Colress into Artazon into Lost Vacuum, plus a switch, and I took the knockout with the Cramorant, and they had to move something else into the active, and they had to forfeit again. So just another quick victory. Cramorant is still broken, by the way. Who let this card exist? And then my final match was to get into Top Cut. Now, all these like 3-1-1s, all of these people here, except for I don't remember who I played into, but there's one person I had to play into who you know, was my opponent, and all these 3-1-1s decided to take the tie. They decided to take their chances of making it to Top Cut. Only one of us was going to be cut, right? So I've talked to my opponent. I was like, yeah, there's no way we could guarantee to get ourselves in the Top Cut. We mulled it over, but eventually we both just decided we were going to play it out. So it is against Gardevoir, and I feel like I have a really good time with the Gardevoir. I know the matchup inside and out. Been playing Lost Box in the Gardevoir since Scarlet and Violet, so just saying. So yeah, it ends up relatively the same, where I end up using Sableye to just put a lot of pressure onto the Manaphys, and my opponent just does not have the tools to get by it. They also put down their Zacian V, which I think is a huge mistake. That card sucks. It's really sketchy too, but they let me Justice Kick their Zacian, and then I end up cram hitting into the Greninja, and then they don't kill the Palafin, so I end up getting a Jet Punch to kill both the Zacian and the Cramorant, and the Radiant Greninja in one hit, and that was really, really good. End up taking 3 prizes off of that. Afterwards, I get to Sableye the Manaphy. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that, but I end up going ahead and taking the knockout against the Zacian and the Greninja, and I put pressure onto the Manaphy. They keep having to recurrent, and they also let me get another Justice Kick up against against the Gardevoir. I think they didn't have enough they didn't have enough Pokemon in the field because of all of that. They had a Manaphy, Greninja, and no, I don't remember what happened now. I'm losing my mind here, but yeah. They end up not having enough damage, so they kill my benched Finizen, of all things. I hadn't evolved it yet. I didn't think I was going to. I think I ended up lost loading the second Palafin, so my idea was like, okay, I could go ahead and Super Rod the Palafin back and just evolve this one. But they end up killing it with Cresselia, which leaves my Palafin up. And I Escape Rope and they sent in the Gardevoir EX, so I'm able to go ahead and Justice Kick that one too. Which is really, really huge for me. So then, after, you know, a long, drawn-out session, I go ahead, take the KO with Sableye, put the remaining damage somewhere else, and I just have a full, like, stacked board of everything. And once again, my opponent has just refused to kill my Palafin. Like, this isn't the threat, somehow. And I think I ended up putting enough damage onto a Gardevoir in order to knock it out, and I go ahead and Jet Punch for game. It was pretty sick. That was also another match I like went the last turn last time, and I ended up winning in that scenario. So, yeah, I ended up going for one in Swiss, and so because everyone else decided to take their ties, I ended up making first inside of Swiss, and I was really, really happy with that. Unfortunately, the Jeremy person ended up getting kicked, but I think looking at my opponent's win rate, and my opponent's win percent, it was pretty low. And I don't know which of these like factors in the most. Of course, this is a bit lower because, you know, I obviously just beat my opponent then and there, but I'm not entirely sure if I would have made it. I might have been cut. I might have been that one last person that got cut. Or there's two people that's going to be cut because the person I beat also got cut. Yeah. So it was going to be an uphill battle, I feel like. So, you know, taking that win there is really, really huge for me. So then we go into our League Cup top cut. Cannot speak. I go against a Chien-Pao, and this is probably one of the easiest matchups for me. As long as you get your Manaphy down, it's probably fine. But it was Chien-Pao, Palkia, I want to say. Yeah, it was Palkia because they ended up using Star Portal quite a bit. So yeah, it's just a lot of like, oh, I get a Justice Kick on a Chien-Pao. Cool. That damage is there, and it's stuck there. And my opponent doesn't really want to play those resources into it. And then I get another Justice Kick onto a Palkia, which allows me to go ahead and use Radiant Greninja to... Or no. Then I send in Cramorant and use my boss to take out the Manaphy. They don't recur the Manaphy back. So then I'm able to use Radiant Moonlight Shuriken to KO the Palkia V-Star and put 90 damage on the barrel. And that was most of my prizes. And then I go ahead and use Jet Punch, which takes out the barrel and the Chien-Pao for my last set of prizes. And that was in the first game. The second game wasn't much better for my opponent. I don't recall most of the details about it, but it's a pretty similar situation where Justice Kick just does a lot of fucking damage, and then intact with like Sableye or a Jet Punch later, I'm just able to get the KOs. I believe this is also a match where I use Value Evolution into the Mimikyu, and so they end up having to like pass the turn because they couldn't kill it, or they had no. I think it was even worse. I think they used Star Portal to charge up the Greninja to do 90 to the Mimikyu. I think they also killed a Comfey too, because I recall not having a Manaphy up at that time. But it wasn't a game ender, as, you know, Justice Kick ended up prevailing. But, like, just another way that I sort of, like, forced my opponent to use different resources, and I got to keep the Palafin alive because of that. So that was really, really good, I feel like. Next, I play against Mew. So first game, I go with my strategy that I was mapping out in my head, and that strategy involves using Justice Kick to KO a Genesect, using Radiant Greninja to Moonlight Shuriken 2 of the other Genesects, and then you gotta use a combination of Sableye or Cramorant in order to take the remaining knockouts. So it's pretty strenuous, because you won't have a lot of time to do this. Mew will take their first prize on their first turn, more likely. Or at least my opponent was, because my opponent, as well as the top cut player, was playing 4 Steel Sun, so there's basically no way in hell that they didn't have it. So they used all those tools, got their first KO. So it is a 6-turn game, and I have to end it quickly. We end up doing all of that, and I end up getting an Escape Rope, I believe, into a Genesect. I think my opponent didn't have a Meloetta, didn't have an Ice Cube, and they only had Mew and Genesect on the table, so they ended up giving me one of their Genesects with the Palafin. I ended up taking that KO, which really helped a lot, because that meant I was able to save a Ghetsis, or lost on a Ghetsis in that word, because I only needed one more to win the game after that. And so, from there, won that game. Game 2, just didn't have the tools to play it out, so I ended up conceding pretty early. They go on to Game 3, and Game 3 actually hits time. by the point that my opponent is like so close. So we've been basically trading every single turn. So I'm working extremely hard for all my kills. I believe on turn 0, I had just finished like shuffling my deck or doing my attack. So it ended up going to my opponent's turn first. And when you're in top cut of an event like this, it's sort of like a whoever has most prizes wins into like a sudden death, basically. And my opponent takes that prize. I ended up retaliating because I'd put damage on something earlier. I think I used Sableye earlier, so I used Moonlight Shuriken to take out one of those Genesects and put 90 on another one. He retaliates back, and the prize is even again. I end up taking a knockout on a Genesect. Yeah, no, he does that. It gets even back up. And then I think I end the game with like a Justice Kick or something like that. It's a little bit murky. I just remember it going to sudden death, and the ball was in my court, and I just managed to like champ it out, just barely. I think I won the game off of it too. It wasn't just like a prize differential. It was, I took all 6 prizes. So I was feeling pretty decent, or pretty good going to that. Because Mew was my problem matchup last night. As you saw, I lost the Mew and only Mew. And today I lost to a dog, so whatever. I took the Mew, and I go into Top Cut. I go into Grand Finals, and I kind of just get handed like the saddest hand ever. It's like not one of those hands that you can just like straight up get dogged or concede by, but it's like one of those hands that you barely have to play it out to like see if you have a chance to win. And both the games are just like that. It's like, oh, not right now. So, ended up flubbing out in Grand Finals, but that's okay. Second place is pretty good. Got quite a bit of cash off of it. And I get to make this video talking about how I got second place at a League Cup with Palafin. So that is super cool with me. I had a really good experience too. So this is my first time doing a League Cup. I've done 2 regionals before. I've done like 2 league challenges. No, I think I've done 3 league challenges. Yeah. I ended up winning my second league challenge, which I played, once again, I played Lost Box. But yeah, so I'm really happy with this performance here. Palafin is a lot stronger than it seems like. I won so many games off a Jet Punch, which is not like the attack you're building around, right? But really just helps out when you're like putting in Champ House like, 10 damage left, or, Radiant Greninja's with so little HP. It like, surprisingly, is good math. And a deck that's really good at manipulating its damage around between like Sableye and Radiant Greninja. So, I had a great time at this League Cup, and I hope to perform again in the next one that I go to. I'm not sure where that'll be. I don't travel very much for Pokemon TCG tournaments, so whatever that is, let it be. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys stick around to my next breakout performance.